Hello everyone, my name is Cindy Ruda and I'm a senior student at RIT Kosovo. For my senior capstone project, I conducted research regarding wages and productivity differentials for employees in service-providing industries in Albania for both IT and business sectors. To start with, outsourcing is a business practice when one company hands out specific business processes or services to other companies to reduce its own production costs. Currently, Albania is one of the most prominent outsourcing destinations in the Balkans. However, as far as I'm concerned, there have been no previous studies regarding outsourcing in Albania, let alone outsourcing for specific sectors. Therefore, this research work will address the existing literature gap and serve as a starting point for future research work. The goals of this research work are to provide an analysis of wage differentials in Albanian outsourcing companies for both the mentioned sectors, to see how such wage differentials vary across firm sizes, and finally to evaluate implications of such findings towards productivity differentials. I have conducted several interviews with representatives of Albanian outsourcing companies in IT and business sectors. Moreover, to reinforce the credibility of such findings, I conducted a survey among 4 Albanian companies operating in Tirana, 2 in the business and 2 in the IT sectors. However, the lack of secondary data available, as well as the COVID-19 restrictions, have made the collection of primary data quite challenging, and there are some limitations in the sample that is being considered in this research work. In terms of findings, turns out that workers in both these sectors have wages below the average Albanian wage. Moreover, there are 3 significant factors that affect the wage differentials, such as gender. There is gender inequality. Females tend to be paid less than males. The next factor is employment durations. Older workers tend to have higher wages than the newcomers. And lastly, there is the education level. Those who have a bachelor or a master degree tend to have higher wages and vice versa. However, it is of great importance to mention the fact that the lack of such outsourcing companies in Albania would mean that people with lower education levels than a bachelor degree could potentially remain unemployed. In terms of efficiency theory, the findings are rather inconclusive. While it holds true for the IT sector, this is not the case for the business one. Finally, for the productivity differentials, the extensive working hours are a very useful working practice in both sectors. However, such a thing may have negative implications for productivity of workers. Therefore, additional breaks beside the lunch one are recommended. Finally, trainings are actually held at the beginning of employment in both sectors, but more investment in human capital is also recommended. To conclude, my long-term plans for this research work are to extend it as my master thesis. Thank you.